Today I'm finally going to do the highly anticipated, or at least highly anticipated by me, full review of Boy Robot by Simon Curtis. I've known Simon for years, not personally, but we have had a few Twitter conversations. I've been a fan of him since about 2009, back when he looked like Jimmy Neutron, and I was way too young to be listening to some of his music. But who needs parental supervision? So I've seen everything from the release of his second album, to all of his stuff with Wrathchild, to the remix of his first album, and then when I heard that he was coming out with a book, I was so excited. This man is so creative and so wonderful and has been through so much that I knew that a book that he wrote just had to be incredible, and it is incredible. I've looked up to Simon for years for his tenacity and his drive to continue to do what he loves despite what the world throws at him, and as a member of the LGBT+ community who's proud of his identity. The lyrics of his music have always inspired me, and now that he's a science fiction author, I just love Simon, okay? I just want to say right at the get-go that I'm so proud of Simon for writing this amazing book, which will soon be an amazing series, and for fighting the good fight for LGBT representation and visibility. This book is going to be so important to so many young LGBT people, and one of my only complaints about it is that it didn't exist sooner. Simon, you're probably never going to see this, but thank you for continuing to follow your dreams and make art. Your dedication to your work is truly inspirational, and I can't wait for what else you put out in the future, but I also can't wait for the moment that the world realizes how amazing you are and you get the respect you deserve. On to the book. So this here is what it looks like. It's very shiny and iridescent on the cover. And this is the back. But the most important part down here is the It Gets Better Project logo, which I just marveled at when I first picked this up. I just think that's so cool that that's on there. The book is dedicated to all of these people, and they are the victims of the Pulse club shooting that happened in Orlando over the summer. Made me cry in the bookstore. So there's that. Boy Robot follows the story of the main character Isaac, who on his 18th birthday goes through a transformation that he doesn't quite understand. He's almost killed by a swarm of men with guns, but then certified badass Azure shows up and whisks him away to safety. I don't think it's too big of a spoiler to say that she explains to him that she and he are both robots, and the men that were hunting them are sheriffs who are trying to wipe out the robot race. The rest of the book follows them as they try to get to safety, and as Isaac learns about being a robot and the world around them, and what it's like to be human, or not. One of the best things about this book are, in fact, the characters. Isaac, the main character, is really relatable. I love the way that he describes things, and I empathized with him quite a bit just as a main character, which you always like to have, a main character that you enjoy. He's a good one. The rest of the robots that they encounter have similar threads tying them together, but they come from really diverse backgrounds. And there are so many LGBT characters, and I don't just mean LGB characters. There's a T in there. The whole friggin' spectrum is involved. So the story mostly centers around Isaac, Azure, and then two humans that they meet along the way, Kamiya and JB. Their dynamic together as a quad is super awesome. I really like how they interact together and how they carry most of the story. My favorite out of the four ended up actually being Kamiya, which I did not expect going in, but I really like her. And towards the end of the story, she becomes really important and has this really interesting backstory, and I was just like, oh, damn. Plus I kind of totally ship her with Azure, like a lot. Simon describes everything really wonderfully, which is another great thing that I love about him and his writing. I feel like the best things that he describes are locations, since they spend a lot of the book traveling. One of my favorite descriptions of the entire book is actually pretty early on when they get to Tulsa, Oklahoma, and he describes what it's like to arrive there. The only city I've seen in my life is St. Louis, and this place reminds me of it. Old brick buildings flank the outskirts of the city center and slowly grow, transitioning into a cluster of skyscrapers that feel more like melancholic monuments to former glory days than symbols of modern prosperity. I suspect all cities in the Midwest would evoke a similar feeling. Honestly, Midwest probs. Another thing that I really love that Simon went into describing is all of the different details that go into what makes robots different from humans. So because they are synthetic humans, they interact with the world really differently than we do, and I love just all those little details. Like, they drink sports drinks because the electrolytes affect them. They can interact with electronics in good and bad ways. And they have the coolest freaking gadgets, okay? Azure has these, like, rings and these grenades. I was just amazed by Azure the entire time because she's a badass. And Isaac also has a really interesting weapon that I'm not going to get into now, but in order to explain Isaac's weapon, Simon had to make me give a shit about physics. and you know how hard it is to make me give a shit about physics. There's so many amazing things about this book, but that doesn't mean that it was perfect. I tend to overanalyze books, mostly because I'm an English major, so that's what I'm doing for a living right now, but also because I am a writer myself, so I really try to pay attention to what works and what doesn't work in books. So here are some of the things that I thought were maybe not the best parts of the book. The whole story is told in a framed narrative where Isaac tells a chapter in first person, and then in between his chapters are these third-person accounts of mostly other robots. And a lot of them were really good and really fun to read because you got to see how other robots transform. And some of my favorite characters in the book, like the twins, are introduced in one of these little vignettes. Overall, they were pretty good, but sometimes I felt like they took away from the momentum of the story. So a few moments of the book where I was just so confused. I had no idea what was going on, and sometimes that's a good thing. You want to solve that confusion and figure out what's going on, and for the most part I did just want to keep reading and figure it out. There's one moment at the beginning of the book that made me go, what? So hard that I put it down for 2 months because I was like, I really want to like this book, but I'm afraid that if I keep reading, I'm gonna dislike it, and I definitely don't dislike it. I just had to get past that part, and that part is so insignificant in the grand scheme of things, but I was very confused. Moral of the story, you have to keep reading, even if you get to a part that's like, what the f is happening? Just keep going. And then there are some things about the robots that either aren't explained or are explained fairly loosely. And I know that it's meant to be frustrating because then we empathize with Isaac, who also has no idea what's going on, but I was like, come on! Give the kids some answers! Some of those things are solved towards the end of the book, so I'm hoping that now that I've read it and I understand more about the robots, that if I go back to the beginning, knowing what I know now, things will make more sense. And as much as I loved the characters, towards the end there were a lot of them and I need to like take notes or read more carefully because I was like, oh wait, who's this again? I was very tired when I was finishing this book. It was late. So hopefully when I go back and read my second time around, I will understand more about the characters. I feel like this is the kind of book that gets better with each read. You know, the more you know, the more you understand, the more little details that you pick up on. It's going to enhance the experience. Those are my initial thoughts on Boy Robot. I truly enjoyed this book. It was so good, and because it's Simon, even though there's life or death situations happening all the time, there's so much dancing. So I honestly cannot wait to read this again and just study it and soak in all of the sci-fi goodness. And I'm really looking forward to the next installment in the series, which is going to be Robot Army. I see what you're doing, Simon. I know that this series is only going to get better and better, which is saying something, because it's pretty awesome already. Boy Robot is a really heartfelt, emotionally driven, heart-pounding action book, and it's a gem for the LGBT community and science fiction lovers everywhere. Somebody please borrow this from me so I have someone to talk to about it. Please. So good! Thanks for watching my video about Simon Curtis's Boy Robot. Let me know in the comments down below if there's a book that you think I should read, because my reading list is ever expanding. And of course, vlog on.